Fascia is a connective tissue that surrounds every single muscle, bone, vessel, nerves, organs, brain tissue. So it really surrounds every other tissue, and it gives the support, it gives the nourishment. It also is a way for the body to communicate. Aloha, my name is Juliana. I'm a licensed acupuncturist and massage therapy for a few years, and I'm really pleased to be here with Efro. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, thank you for having me. We're at this wonderful Dao Del Mar. This is the acupuncture clinic of Sweet Juliana here in Kaka'ako. Inspired, and so here we are to talk to you about fascia, its importance, and why we're collaborating together here in town. That's accessible to a majority of people who live in Honolulu.
Yeah, we want to provide education, and we want to empower people to be part of their own healing journey.
Absolutely, absolutely. As Juliana said, she's an acupuncturist and massage therapist, and I myself am certified in the Fascianator Method. I do life coaching, energy healing. There's a lot that goes into the energy work and energy healing, but there's also a physical part of it. So I find a lot of people, they want to divorce spirit from physicality, or they want to go purely into physicality or mentality, and all of these things are integrated together. Stations of fascia. I'm like, don't want to be like, what's that? Getting older. So for people who may not know, what is fascia and why is it so important to the human body?
Fascia is a connective tissue that surrounds every single muscle, bone, vessel, nerves, organs, brain tissue. So it really surrounds every other tissue, and it gives the support, it gives the nourishment. It also is a way for the body to communicate with distant parts of the body. In the body, we always see it as an onion, or that's how we kind of describe it. And we have different layers. You start to peel the layers and layers and layers, and fascia would be located, I would say, like in between the skin organ and the rest of the tissue. So it's not really deep. Actually starts really superficial in the body, and then it starts to go deeper and deeper and deeper into the body. It all connects. So it connects the exterior with the interior. So it is a really important tissue that we started to discover pretty much recently about this tissue, because in the medical studies, when we used to do cadaver dissection, that's one part of the body that we will tend to discard,
right?
Because we want to study deeper, we want to study muscles, ligaments, tendons,
what we deemed is important, or what they deemed is important.
Exactly.
And there's only a few scientists and biologists throughout the years, right? Because modern, well, what we know of as modern medicine started off in the early 1800s, right? So what they started to discover is that there's this interworking process, right? It's a glue, and it's also used for structure. So like your IT band, your lower back. The example, it's also a fluid matrix. And I learned recently that when you're sick and mucus leaves the body, mucus itself is actually part of the fascial network, taking out the dead blood cells and toxins from the body. So it works on so many layers. It's also directly correlated with crystallized fascia is directly correlated with cancer growth. So we've even had people in my Fascianator Method program go from positive mammograms to negative mammograms. We don't say that it's a cure-all, right? Because nothing is a panacea, but it can help with a lot. And sometimes things happen immediately, but the fascia itself can take up to 2 years to start to restructure and redefine, especially if the pattern has been set in play.
Exactly. So what, like, for me, what is an adhesion? So for me, there's that fascia layer, but it's very dynamic. It has that fluid because it tends to slide in between the muscles, and you need that fluid for all the circulation and the fluid metabolism, the nutrient exchange, everything to happen. So when the fascia starts to get depleted of blood supply,
Mm.
of oxygen, starts to become really rigid.
Mm.
It starts to, like you say, become calcified or crystallize. And that movement, that natural movement and that flow gets restricted.
Right.
So it affects all the rest of the movement of the rest of the fascia. So the idea would be to restore the circulation pathways, the nerve pathways, the blood supply, the oxygen supply, the energetic flow, the fluids, um, of that specific tissue, so the rest of the body can start to work in harmony.
So I guess the real point we're getting across here, it's not about what is fascia, it's about what isn't fascia. It intercalates between every single cell, every single organ system in order for it to function well. And what I found as we decolonize medicine, it's not just about one organ or one system. It's about how all of it flows together. Mm-hmm. So the fascial lines, they run all the way from the feet to the head, and or from arm to arm, and they crisscross across the body, and they layer on top of each other. So like she's talking about with the flow and the dynamics, when you roll with the fascianator, because the fascianator is for self myofascial release, it helps put you back in touch with the self. I also like to think of the fascial matrix as the true light body of humanity, or of the system, especially when you're looking at the electro gradient and electro potential and alignment of collagen fibers themselves. Collagen is one of the major components, as well as hyaluronic acid, of fascia. And so when you're in movement and motion and flow, the collagen fibers align themselves and have this electrical gradient. And children, like when they do these tests on electrical potential, children have huge electrical potential because they're moving all around, they're getting all this, and they're brand new, right? But the older you get, the stiffer you get, the less, or the more the collagen fibers kind of do this crazy, like knitting type of wool fashion, so they're no longer as potent. And what I think is cool is when I'm done rolling people in class, everyone has this glow about them. So you see that glow in like pregnant women and stuff like that, because you see they're constantly making new cells, and they're becoming really elastic, right? When they put in the elastin, or the hormones kick in for them to move around, it provides a lot more fluidity of movement. Yeah. So let's move on to our second question. So, how does fascia influence not just physical movement, but overall health and vitality?
I think, like I said, like our our bodies rely of this circulation, relies on the oxygen in the nutrients to be constantly flowing, to for all our cells to perform well. So when there's restriction in any part of our body, and there is that lack of fluidity, that really starts to shift the way we move, the way we feel, the way we breathe. Mm-hmm. Everything, even our circulation, which provides the nutrients for all our body, will start to become how will I explain it? It will start to create like a backup. Like everything
Mm,
will start to become stagnant and starts to become kind of like condensed.
mm,
You can call it toxins, you can call it whatever, this accumulation
mm-hmm.
is, and that accumulation is what causes problems at the end of the day. So definitely some, like, even emotionally, if
Yes,
you're in
absolutely.
constant flow, if you cannot express your emotions, if you and not only that, the fascia also, because it's like what surrounds us, is what informs about what happens in the exterior, right?
Right.
And how we perceive and interpret the exterior,
Absolutely.
because it's that one of those first layers. So it is really important to maintain
Right.
this
So
flow.
it's
Yeah.
it's kind of like the person who comes to me with plantar fasciitis or pain from a collapsed arch. Yes, you're going to have immediate relief of that space, right? Because that's the physical symptom. But you've been hunched over, you've been driving, you've been wearing a rucksack, let's say. The trauma clearly does stay in the body. It stays and turns into knots. It stays and turns into emotional volatility, right?
Mhm.
We're having some really funny things happen in the background, and we're both handling it well because we understand flow. We
Mhm.
understand that this is part of life. A person
Mhm.
who was really stiff in their fascia or really just stiff in general, let's say they work out a lot, but they don't really free up their fascia for movement, they can take that as an aggressive behavior from the external environment when the world is just worlding. We are in this interview, right? So not only does it free up your ability to move and feel, but it also frees up your mentality to accept what is and change what you can and um, move on from what you cannot. And so I found that people who have a lot of really stuck fascia, they feel a lot of pain. They also feel a lot of emotional volatility, and it's usually aggression. So, like anger, or they'll carry sorrow. I was reading about how stuck fascia is directly related to depression. It's like this depression syndrome. So, I mean, people, they can be in so much physical pain that they'd want to kill themselves. Like there are people who are looking for assisted suicide simply because of the physical pain that they're stuck in. And we have the ability to actually free them from that pain. They have the ability to free themselves from the pain, right?
Mhm.
Just by
Mhm.
choosing to step into a healing journey, knowing that this isn't how we're supposed to be living and this can be moved,
I
right?
think it depends where the accumulation is in the body. Is going to present, you know,
As
different
pain or,
emotions
oh,
or pain or um. So that's why, also when we see where people are experiencing pain, it can also inform us of, what could possibly, you know, where could possibly the accumulation or the blockage is.
absolutely. And that's
Mhm.
one of the beautiful nuances of working with fascial lines and Eastern medicine, right? Because acupuncture lines, they run the same lines as the fascial lines.
Mhm.
Um, and so releasing the entire fascial body as I do, it was interesting to work with a client who said that, oh, I have a lot of pain in these areas and they're blocked in these particular um, systems, right? According to Eastern medicine, they're blocked in these systems, and then revealed later on that she had actually had cancer in those areas and tissue and tenderness and scar tissue and stuff. And so I was like, okay, well, all of these things are overlapping. So what we get to do is not only work on the line, but work on the organs themselves, as well as the emotions that are put into those systems, right?
Mhm.
What are some of the common misconceptions that people have about fascia?
I would say one thing that I have noticed when people refer to uh, I need a myofascial treatment or how it is supposed to be. I think a lot of people think that it has to be aggressive, that it has to be painful, that it has to be really deep, really fast. Um, I think we underestimate like the power of light touch and intention and gentle gentleness. I think people want it like, oh, really, really aggressive, or I want you to just like, you know, iron me and like
I know.
go with all you want, or you know, all the. But I think there are misunderstanding really that, you know, yes, sometimes going deep is what we want. We want to reach, you know, deeper in the body, but when we talk about fascia, it's a little bit more in the exterior. So we want to peel the layer. We want to start from there and then move deeper.
Beautiful.
I think going really deep, really fast actually is counterproductive for the treatment. It's actually not really an effective way to treat, especially when you're in pain, right? So
Yeah.
yes, it is uncomfortable when we treat adhesions. Of course, it is a little bit, but it doesn't have to have this like aggressiveness or kind
Right.
of violence, actually.
Right. Modified it in a way that it's a little slower, it's a little bit more mindful, and it's more like a yoga style, because it's not yoga per se, but I do incorporate breath work and that movement of just re-embodying and getting in touch with the self for fascia. So I think for me, one of the main misconceptions is that, okay, I rolled, so I should be good to go. And it's like, this is an ongoing process. You train your fascia with every movement, every step or lack of steps, right? Every minute of sitting or laying down, and every kind of just common movement that you're doing, whether you have impact, whether you are, you know, jogging or lifting weights. All of these things are affecting your fascia, including what you eat and how you eat it, and all of that wonderful stuff. So people think it's like a one and done kind of a thing, but it can take up to 3 years to restructure a fascial pattern. It can, yeah, in as little as 6 months. Like you can program your subconscious in about 2 months, right? Mm-hmm. You can retrain a muscle in like 3 months, retrain it, but unless you're training everything and working the fascia at the same time, all of these things will train faster than the fascial memory itself for the fascia to restructure and regrow. And it's constantly um, like shifting and changing anyway, but it will do it in the way that the body is required.
Yeah, I do believe that it is like very individual. Like, you know, I've seen people that I could treat one time and never again. You know, this pattern presented again, where there's people that it could take years, you know, so it's very personal. And I think with this work that you teach is also kind of giving the person a tool for them to also be involved in this,
right,
in this process.
That's
I
a
know
good
that
point.
everybody has different lifestyles and life happens, but if there's something that you can do to support your body, is to do this fascia work also on your own. And like you teach, is like being mindful and start to embody and feel what's happening, you know, inside.
Right.
And I think that's one of the important ways to do it, as well as, you know, having an adequate nutrition, hydration, movement, because actually what causes most of the restriction also is the lack of movement.
Yes.
Um, what other thing do you think it can?
Well, I was also kind of reflecting back on what you were saying about pain and pleasure. Well, not pleasure, but everything shouldn't necessarily be all about pleasure seeking, right? So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times people will just say, this area hurts, I'm not going to touch it or use it or move it. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that just means it's going to get worse and worse. And then it's going to go to other different parts of the body. Like
Yeah.
people have one knee surgery or hip surgery, then they need knee surgery, then they need the other knee surgery. But your body's starting to compensate and do these things. It if 80% of carpal tunnel surgeries fail within the first 12 months, and then they give you another carpal tunnel surgery, why would you think that they're going to help you? Why not pick something that, oh, maybe I have to work out some of these tension spots? That part might be hard, but after you get past that pain part, it actually starts to relax and open up and feel great. Now, I'm not saying shock your nervous system by any means, but I'm saying take the time to figure out what you need in your place and how you're growing, right? And hopefully, you want to be growing towards your best life, your healthiest self.
Like this is kind of more like a personal question. So when you start to feel the release, can you describe the sensation that you feel when you have a release?
We were talking a little bit earlier about what is, because with manual work, you can feel the releasing. But what happens when I feel the releasing? Um, It's like slowing down, opening, and like a cool water or like warm water,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like a touching enlightenment, I guess, for lack of a better word, right? Because all of a sudden everything eases in the whole chain, even the storyline. Like there's some kind of, you can feel the tension in your brain or that stress in
Mm-hmm.
your brain, but it's not named. And then when it opens up, you're just, you're relieved, you're slowed down, you can breathe, you can feel this moment versus kind of trying to run from the moment. I mean, that's kind of what it feels like when you're holding on to something, pain,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
tension, stuff like that.
Yeah, when I feel like I'm in an area where there's some restriction, first it feels tender, it feels a little bit uncomfortable. Try to breathe through it,
Okay,
and
yes.
and give energy, just kind of communicate with the body and just let go, with my breathing. And then I start to feel, like you say, like this warmth
Yeah.
and this release. It could be even tingling,
Right,
it could be
right,
even burning sensation.
right.
And it starts to translate in the rest of
Yeah.
the tissue, and I can feel how I can move better,
Mm-hmm.
that area how I can breathe better.
Mm-hmm.
It's really transformative, like it's like you push through, you release, you feel the warmth, you feel, you know the oxygen, you feel,
The blood flow, everything.
everything. Yeah,
Yeah. It's pretty
it's
cool.
such an amazing experience,
And when you
actually.
give it to yourself because of a tool,
Mm-hmm.
you feel empowered in a different kind of a way, right? Instead of like, okay, I have to come and see this person. Not saying that that's not a good thing to develop those relationships and someone who works on your body, because they can work your fascia in different ways that you wouldn't be thinking about. But when you actually do the work for yourself and you start to hear and listen to your body, it opens up a new level of self awareness and almost a stillness that allows for
Mm-hmm.
growth and
Mm-hmm.
embodiment. It's really cool. I'm digging
Yeah,
it.
I do believe that, I highly recommend to my clients, because um if you do this work on your own, your time, during the times that perhaps maybe I cannot see you, like in acupuncture, usually ideally will be to see you more often than not. So if I cannot, I really recommend people to incorporate this routine into their body, and then when you come in, your body is more open,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever was in that exterior layer is not creating a barrier for us to work a little bit deeper in the body and to start to resolve, maybe any kind of stuff that is a little bit deeper. Maybe it's in the organs, maybe it's your immune system, your digestive system, your endocrine system. But if we still have a layer of resistance and tension and adhesion in the exterior, it's a little bit harder to,
work into
yeah.
or even to receive the needle upon acupuncture, right? Because I remember having to override my system because I was getting acupuncture fairly regularly. So I had to override my system of defense to receive it.
Mhm.
And so I was always like, I'm butter or I'm a cloud. I can accept it's like, because there is that like resistance. And so I've been rolling fairly regularly. It would be really neat to check back in with.
Okay, yeah.
I feel like we've answered some of these questions. Like from your perspective, how do you see fascia show up in your clients' bodies? I think you kind of answered that, right? Or do you want to go
Yeah.
into more depth?
Everybody, I mean, it shows up on everybody, right? Like I said, that's the kind of like first part of the body that you are becoming contact with, and you want to work in that realm before going any deeper, you know
For me, it's kind of interesting because I'm I'm awakening people to their own perception of their fascia. Most people they'll say, "What fascia?" And they'll glaze over because they don't understand the word I'm using. But once I clue someone into what fascia feels like in their body, they are allowed to be introspective in a different way. And so I appreciate just having the language and a tool to help people awaken to themselves. Can we explain how trauma or stress gets stored in the fascia and how our work helps release it?
I think when we become in contact with like a situation, or we find ourselves maybe in danger, um, our body has this protective mechanism, that will travel through our whole fascia and try to protect us. Maybe we need to run, some people freeze depending on the situation. And sometimes we don't take the time to go over this cycle of, from the moment we receive that shock, or that impression or something that we saw, or that impacted us, to the moment where it's resolved and now we feel safe again. I think sometimes, um, underneath we still feel a little bit in danger.
Mm.
And when that happens over a long period of time, that's where the issues tend to come up.
Oh, yes.
So
And the
it's very,
guarding. And then the whole just attack my body, which is
yeah.
basically go hard,
Yes,
because I
yes,
can't feel otherwise. And it's like, why can't you feel that?
yes.
It's,
Yeah, those moments of fear, of adrenaline or whatever, can make our body, oh, we're in danger.
yeah.
So how can we start to shift back into safety? Oh, I'm safe now, I can relax.
And that's exactly kind of why I got into the roller system, the Fascianator roller system. Is I was diagnosed with complex PTSD, and I had just gotten out. Well, I was out of a DVAC situation, so that's domestic violence, right? For over 2 years. And something happened where I was just laying in bed. My son was with his friends, being taken care of, and everything was great. And then I just started shaking and crying. And I was like, what is happening? Like, why is this happening? And so I started finding all this stuff about trauma release when you feel safe. And so a lot of people have trauma stored in the body. So I got the roller, and I'm working on my certification at the time, and I was I had been studying somatic release through yoga, somatic yoga, and it wasn't working. Everything I was doing, I was like, okay, I'm feeling all this stuff. Why haven't I had this? I can feel that I'm carrying it. Where is it going? So I'm just rolling, not necessarily playing stories or anything like that. I had developed a little journal that was like, okay, do you feel an emotion here? Feel an emotion here. If you want that, DM me and we'll work on it. You can help me with my prototype journal, right, for emotional release and trauma release. And I rolled over one spot on my leg. It was the knot, right? I was like, oh, I'm going to just see how to roll it out. So I do some breathing and then some feeling. And then all of a sudden, the space just opened up. It just melted. And then I started crying, just sobbing. And I was like, whoa. And then I felt lighter. And what I thought was so cool about it was I didn't rehearse a story. I didn't have to figure out what was going on, because a lot of this stuff, you're just talking yourself back into your trauma loop when you're telling this story sometimes. I didn't have to tell a story or anything. My body just released it, and then I've felt lighter ever since. And I realized that there had been so many instances in my life that I had kind of just bottled that for survival, right? Because sometimes they tell us you're not allowed to express that type of emotion, or keep that to yourself, don't tell anyone, that kind of thing, or you're going to be judged about it. And really, I'd been holding it together for so long. I mean, I'm so educated, right, with its degrees and blah blah blah, and I was like, I shouldn't have been in that situation. I was blaming my brain for not being smart enough to get me out of it. And it's like, that was part of the lesson to learn. That was part of the space. And to know that you were able to release, I was able to release it without an attachment to the story, and I could just feel better. That to me was like, I absolutely have to help other people. I absolutely have to start teaching classes. So it was sweet just to not disassociate again. It was, I mean, I actually have stopped disassociating. I can have an uncomfortable situation with while being present. So I'm pretty excited. It's a big
That's
deal.
such a beautiful and inspiring, story, because yeah, this is a moment that you took for yourself to
Right. I mean,
be present in
yeah.
that moment and find out.
Yeah. And that's why I love doing that work with other people, helping them, providing that tool for them to be able to keep on doing their work. Because sometimes, you're on the table, you're getting the work, but there's something that's resistant inside of you. But typically, we're not resistant to ourselves. So even doing the work again at home, yes, come to the classes, yes, get the work done, but also take that time to do the work yourself, to transmute or figure what's happening within your own system, and have the patience to know that sometimes that knot is going to take quite a few rolls to go away.
Yeah.
So let's see.
Yes.
We're getting deep.
I love it.
What are some of the visible shifts that you've noticed in clients after releasing fascial restrictions?
Okay, so prior to each treatment, we try to do an assessment. We do a visual assessment, a posture assessment, range of motion before we go in, so we can really visualize the changes that maybe some patterns that the body is holding, and have a little better understanding. So after the work, you can definitely see how the body aligns better, how maybe the rib cage is expanding with the breathing pattern changes, the posture changes, the alignment of even the skeletal tissue improves, because we are not holding um, any tension, or nothing is pulling into that area. So after that happens, it's really important to have any kind of movement, also incorporate any kind of movement exercise, more focus into like functional, so that way you can repattern your brain into this different uh, body pretty much.
Ah.
So it's really good to also, take in consideration that, we have some muscular patterns that we tend to adopt throughout our year, like you say, and then that's what we call compensations.
Mm.
When we start to fire different muscles just in order to protect maybe a joint,
Mm.
or maybe since we were a child, usually you see children that walk the same as their parents
Oh, yes.
or their caregivers,
Interesting.
right? So we have to now then consciously start to repattern our brain to adopt a new way of walking, a new way of moving, and after we do this release. So it is pretty visible. It is pretty amazing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I want to incorporate more of that into my one-on-one clientele. But when I have the classes, it's a little hard to do.
I know.
So I do these mini assessments throughout the class, like how does your foot feel on the ground, and how does your mobility feel from before you roll this area to after you roll this area. So it's really cool to kind of just watch a person open up. And even if they're at a tender spot, right? Because where it's tender, it's tight. So if we go over something tender and they're like making this scrunched up face, or they stop the breathing or something, and I've incorporated them calming their nervous system, working through the breath in order to release the tension in the body. I mean, you can see people, they're coming there like this with their shoulders, and they'll drop down.
Yeah.
There are people that come in with kind of like the stern, serious face, leaving with a smile and a glow. Actually, everybody leaves with a smile, so I feel thankful for that, especially because it was always surprising to me. Even though I had released so much tension, by the time I started working with other people, my body craves the rolling. It really enjoys that opening.
Yeah.
And that release of tension. And it does get easier, but the first time it can be surprising where we're holding, how much tension we're holding. It's like, yes, honey, you're 65 years old and you've been holding in a lot in that calf muscle for quite some time.
But what I like about your classes too is like there is always a modification for whatever level you are.
Yes.
Yeah. It is not a one thing fits all. It is very individual. You take the time to go around each individual and helping them find the most comfortable way for them to,
be in the position, or find that muscle that they're going for, or that tendon that they're going for. Like, it is fun. It's cool. But it took me a while to kind of get over the, oh, I don't want to hurt people. And it's like the people pleaser in me. And it's like, okay, little girl, I understand. But right now, this person kind of needs to work through that. So you got to put them in it a little bit. Fascia is the glue. Why am I so nervous? It's just a red light, right? Okay.
I can start too. So for me, what is fascia?
Let's see. So how does acupuncture interact with the fascia? Is there an energetic or structural connection?
Yes, everything is connected. So what happens in acupuncture, there's actually been a few studies. When the acupuncture needle goes into this fascial space, the fascia actually wraps around the needle, and it starts to send a biochemical signal throughout the whole body, and it actually signals the fascia to release, to open up, and you have different neurotransmitters, endorphins that flow into the body. So it's actually really amazing.
That's super cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's super cool.
Yes. Yes.
Wow, it's electrical and
Yeah.
chemical.
Yes.
That's very cool. Okay, so why do we feel it's powerful to bring our businesses together? Massage therapy, acupuncture, and fascial release, right? Or fascial rolling. Because
Yeah.
we talked about it earlier. She's like, "Do you feel the releases?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do." And then in terms of fascial rolling, right? Because we're initially starting with the rolling, but as a person starts to relax and open, they release, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, because the body, Western empirical medicine has a standard of that's what is wrong with you in that part of your body. So that's the part we're going to attack. And it's a very warlike.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas rolling, it gets you into a flow and it's not just attacking one part of the system, it's softening everything so
Mm-hmm.
that the parts that need to release more, either in that rolling session or the next rolling session or the one after that, however many times it takes, to open up and release fully so that the pattern itself is worked out of the body. Um, how about, I mean, and then with what you just said, you
And
know,
I think, rolling has been always part of my own personal practice. I discovered rolling maybe in 2019. I was having sciatic pain, believe it or not. It was a really
oh
strange
man,
sensation because I never really felt nerve pain before. So I was trying different ways. I did go to a really amazing therapist that he helped me a lot,
oh lovely,
to learn about fascia in a personal level, and he introduced me a little bit into fascia work. Since then, I have been doing fascia myself, and I honestly never felt better. I have really good mobility. I feel really good in my body, and I thought this is there's something in here. So um, I'm I have met you for a while, and I think you're an amazing person, and I like that you incorporate different styles of treatment. And I realized that you were teaching and leading this practice, so I thought, what better way or give to my clients that to open up this whole new practice, this whole new world. And I think that they will benefit a lot from it, to have this practice, incorporate into their own lives.
absolutely. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I appreciate the opportunity. It's been, I mean, this is such a wonderful space to hold um, classes. I've got Reiki certified Yoni instructor. So, all right, let's go ahead and almost lost it. Let's
Okay.
get, go myself a Yoni instructor.
Oh,
Okay.
that's amazing.
All right. So the foundations. The foundation. Fascia is the glue. Why am I so nervous? It's just a red light, right? Okay.
I can start too. So for me, what is fascia?